Welcome back to another episode of In Depth and Out Loud with me, Dubbz. Now, if you are a student that is in the hospitality industry or interested in the hospitality industry, well, you are in for a treat today because we are going to be chatting to the CEO of City Lodge Hotel Group and all the information that you need to know about this industry. You are going to get it today. Lindiwe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dubbz. Thank you for having me.
So I think I'm just going to start with, firstly, what interested you in this industry, but give us your portfolio. How did this all start?
So, it's many years ago. I'm sure those of the young people who are listening might say, oh, she's ancient. 1987, my story started with hotel management school in Switzerland. So I had taken interest through a brochure that a school friend handed over to me. And I thought, wow, this is exciting. My father wasn't that excited when he heard about it, neither was my mom. And they kept asking, but why hospitality, my child? Do you want to peel potatoes? Do you want to serve people and ask them how the drink is? So it was kind of, hard convincing them. And remember, these were parents who grew up they're born in the 30s, they grew up in the 50s, and they knew that either you become a doctor or a lawyer and so on. So anyway, I went to Switzerland after convincing them. I got a scholarship, and that was just wonderful. That's where my passion came to life. We studied, the usual, the 3-year course of hospitality management, kitchen, service, and all of that. And then I met a group of individuals from the US, teachers, university professors actually, who were passing through the school in Switzerland, and they offered me an opportunity in the US. Wow. So then I went to study hotel, restaurant, and institutional management at Penn State University. So I have a bachelor's science degree in that. And I've come back since 1995 to South Africa and worked my way through the ranks from being an assistant front office manager at the Hyatt, and today Chief Operating Officer at City Lodge Hotels.
I get goosebumps when you tell me this. I like that you say you worked your way up. What is the most, I don't want to say the most ugliest, no, I don't want to use that word, but I'm going to say, what was the lowest that you've ever had to do, and you didn't think you had to do it in hospitality, but you were told that unfortunately you need to start here, you need to do this to get up there, to understand this and that?
It's a great question. I had just come out of university at Penn State University. I was working at the Grand Hyatt Washington, D.C. in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. Huge hotel, 899 rooms, beautiful hotel.
Massive.
And I was, as an intern, working at the front desk. And I spoke to the rooms division director, and I said to her in one of, mentoring sessions, I'd love to move and, advance in the hotel. And she said, well, before you do that, you need to humble yourself. And you need to go and work in housekeeping and clean a few toilets and make a few beds. I had no problem with that because I thought there's nothing untoward about that. But I think the reality check when it happened, making more than 14 rooms, cleaning 14 rooms. And it took time. It's not easy. And that's when you start appreciating the people in the who work in the housekeeping department, cleaning toilets. And even there, I had to work my way into sort of this young student who's come to tell grown ladies who've been working for years whether the room is clean or not. And it was an attitude of saying, let me just roll up my sleeves and do the best I can and work with the ladies. And I didn't feel lowly. It just felt very honorable, and it was not easy. So I always appreciate housekeeping departments.
Does that mean your bed, it is made to the T?
I had an aunt who used to say, show me how to mitre a bed. How do you guys get those corners?
I also don't know how to get those corners. You go back home and you look at your bed and you're like, but this is not make sure. What bed is this? And you want to go back to the hotel.
Even up to today, when I go into a hotel, the first thing I look at is the corners. And I
look at you.
Say, let's start again.
I love that. But you've worked in so many roles, like you say, from being an intern now to COO, making beds, cleaning toilets. How has each role kind of prepared you for this moment and helped you in your current role now?
Yeah, so the role of Chief Operations Officer is one that I always say is a very generalist type role. You're not necessarily a specialist of anything. but you can put together all the elements that make a hotel or make a business run. And that's one thing that I've learned in the years. I'm not a specialist at marketing, but I understand it very well. And sales, there's elements of finance that come into it. And so you need to know how to run your business and make sure that your, profit and loss and income statements at the end of the month are in sync with what you were doing in the operation, because it tells a story. So you start learning about finance, or over the years I've learned about that. Definitely all the other things that are very important in this day and age, IT, especially now with the advancement and the race and pace at which IT develops. Even in marketing, there's so many new developments that are taking place. Food and beverage I've always loved, so that aspect also plays a big role, when you're sitting with your teams and they're talking about expanding and changing menus. Things are relevant to me. So I always say having insight into all the different departments for me has been a great gain, because it's enabled me to do the work that I do in my role.
So just when we're speaking about passion and you getting into an industry that you're passionate about, this is now especially for the students, that even if in my case broadcasting and I'm mad about it, but there's always that one thing within broadcasting, within hospitality, within engineering, within medicine that will always kind of like, this part, there's always that admin side of whatever in the industries that we love so much that will still be like, I don't want to do this, but I still have to do it. Because I think sometimes people think if you're passionate about something and you love it with your entire being, you think that there's not going to be things there that will kind of, annoy you. No. There'll be things there that you don't want to do, but you got to have them done.
Do them. I think over the years, it's the discipline to actually sit down and do the admin.
Yeah.
Because I can talk for myself, I've always enjoyed being with people.
Yeah.
I love the front of the house. So it's absolutely no problem for me to be running around the hotel, moving into different departments, engaging with staff, engaging with guests. But there's always a point where you have to go back to your office, make sure your emails are up to date, your admin is up to date, that you've read your statistics early in the morning. How did the hotels fare? What were the occupancy rates? And you're doing that for a reason, so that when you interact with the people during the day, your information is at your fingertips. So I don't hate admin, but I've had to train myself not to procrastinate.
Yes,
because
I like how you
we
put
procrastinate on the things that we dread, and all that you do is you just, they call it the piling system as opposed to the filing system, where you're just piling up and, now doing a big catch up. So I've learned that doing a little bit every day helps. Also apportioning at which points in the day, early in the morning, and then do all your meetings and operational stuff in the daytime, and then another round in the evening, so that you have no surprises the next morning. And also to-do lists. I'm still a big
fan of that as well. I like getting my admin out of the way first thing. I get so much anxiety when I know there's that admin that needs to be done, and I can't function.
Exactly.
So that needs to be done, then I can function with everything else.
And then checking it off is such a wonderful moment, isn't it?
Done.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you can watch your series in peace.
Exactly.
How many hotels are you running currently? 60?
So City Lodge Hotels, pre-COVID, had 63 hotels.
Right.
And then during COVID, we decided to offload the East African hotels. It just didn't make sense. We couldn't travel. We also needed to find some liquidity in our group and create some cash. So we sold our 4 hotels in East Africa, in Tanzania and in Kenya. So we currently have 59 hotels. Of those 59, 3 of them are one is in Botswana, one is in Namibia, and the other one is in Mozambique.
Sure. That must still be hectic. It's not like it's less hectic with those ones gone.
So our presence is really Southern Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's these challenges that come with running all of them still. What are some of these challenges, and how do you manage them? How do you overcome these challenges?
Yes. So, over these years, particularly with the infrastructure challenges that our country is facing, I can talk just about the issue of load shedding and what impact that had. So as we went through the recognizing that load shedding was going to be a thing with us for some time, even though now it seems to have greatly reduced. We obviously have always had generators in all our hotels. But over years, the more generators are used, the more that they need to be serviced. So the costs that are associated with that, the costs of diesel when the generator is chugging all day, the cost of an additional service. So maybe you used to service twice a year, now you're servicing 4 times a year. So those costs begin to erode your margins. So I could say generally, overall, even though we are now in better space since COVID, management of costs are some of the biggest challenges that we have, and the example I've given.
Wow. How does your company manage consistent quality of service? I mean, over the years and even now.
So we have what are called brand standards. We have 4 brands within our stead. So we have the Courtyard brand, which is a 4-star. We have the City Lodge brand, which is 3-star. Some of our city lodges are also 4-star. We have town lodges, which are 2-star, and road lodges, which are 1-star. So all those brands have what are called brand standards, which are documented, standard operating procedures for each brand. So we would know, as a good example, how breakfast is served and what the offering is in a road lodge compared to a Courtyard. So because it's a 1-star, not meaning that the service is any less. The service across is always excellent and 5-star for everyone. But you know, when you're paying in a road lodge, for example, that because my rate is lower, my breakfast offering is a little less. So I might find a buffet with 20 items when I go to the Courtyard, but maybe in a road lodge is 10 items. So brand standards are what are very important, and everybody has to abide by them. So we like it when general managers are creative and put their own little personal touch, and one general manager might have yellow flowers and another one might have a little, something else in terms of decor, but you will always know as a guest what to expect. That's so important, that the guest expectation is always met or exceeded.
I think you have one down the road here on Greyston, hey? Is that a road lodge?
In Greyston, that used to be a town lodge. And then after COVID, we decided, based on the market dynamics and the offering, and that we didn't have a road lodge within the Sandton node.
Yeah.
We converted that into a road lodge, and it's done phenomenally well.
No, it's lovely. I was there actually, I think about 3 months ago. It's 4-star, isn't it?
Is that how it felt?
Yeah, it did.
It did. So being a road lodge, it's actually 1-star. But
Is it?
Yes, but we've also got a little bit of leeway. We are, because Tourism Grading Council, who oversees all of grading, is not mandatory, it's voluntary. So you apply and you say, my hotel can offer the following. So that is one hotel that might fall out and end up being a 2-star as opposed to being a 1-star. The rooms are slightly bigger because it used to be a town lodge. But the offering in terms of, the rate and the offering is a road lodge offering.
Yeah, no, it's stunning. The food was delicious. I'm a big foodie.
Great to hear. Great to hear.
How important is financial knowledge in hospitality, and also for hospitality managers? And what is the kind of advice would you give students about acquiring that kind of financial knowledge as they tap into this industry after graduation?
So financial knowledge is everything. It really is. I would even want to say to students, if later on you want to improve your skills, make sure that financial management features as one of those additional skills that you hone in on. The financials of any business tell a story. When you receive your financial profit and loss at the end of the month from your accounting department, it's telling you a story of how your operations are going. You obviously will always have what are called budgets. We forecast how we're going to look. We look at historical data, we look at what's happening in the economy, etc. But it's your financials ultimately that will say, did I manage to exceed my budgets? And if not, what was the reason? If I was not able to meet my budget expectations or exceed them, what were the hindrances? Was there a flood that stopped people traveling? Were there riots, that maybe interfered with travel? Was there a pandemic, as an example? So now when we look at our financials from during the pandemic, it tells a story. We're able to see what happened. So it's absolutely so important, and I rate it really highly, ever so more. and would want that students who have taken up hospitality management because it's a passion. Yes, the passion usually lies with the dealing with people, the flamboyance,
Yes.
you know, the excitement of what it looks like to, you know, serve a beautiful meal or, you know, make a room look beautiful. But ultimately, what costs went into making that room beautiful?
Sure.
What costs went into delivering that plate? Is your room correctly priced? Is your food and beverage correctly priced? And it's only the financials which will tell you when you start analyzing, you know, the results.
So when you stand in that room and you smile, you understand exactly what you're smiling about from
Exactly.
a financial aspect as well.
Yeah. And the biggest challenge is usually labor. You know, in this day and age, utility costs are always a big challenge, given that electricity in South Africa has become such a sort of expensive commodity. I spoke about generators and diesel, and that has also increased costs. Inflation in economies that are still struggling and, you know, looking for balance. I think South Africa is going to begin to enjoy better times. You know, yesterday petrol prices came down. Petrol prices coming down means that it steadies our food and beverage costs. Because when petrol costs are up, food and beverage costs also go up because of deliveries and all those type of things. So understanding the economy also is so important in looking at how your operation runs and being able to relate and tell the story. You're telling a story when you are sitting in front of your board or sitting in front of your stakeholders and shareholders, and they're asking, why didn't you make the profit that you promised? What was the reason?
Sure.
Or bravo, you know, you made wonderful profits. Next year you can do better.
You're not breaking even. What's happening here?
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
And that's the conversation you'll be having in a boardroom.
Exactly.
So what are the key qualities would you say students need to have to make it in this industry?
So I would first of all say passion, and you've spoken about passion in broadcasting and media. We must be passionate about what you do. Your heart must beat. You must have that excitement when you get out and say, I'm going to work. Of course, we'll always have those moments where you say, oh, I wish I couldn't, but passion. And then as you go about studying, I think make sure that you're so open-minded, first of all, to all the general aspects that are required in hotel management. But over and above that, knowing what I know now, if I was speaking to my younger self, I would be saying, what would I have specialized in? And what would I have honed my skills in at an earlier stage? It definitely would have been finances.
Sure.
It definitely would have been sales and marketing, but particularly marketing and today's digital marketing platforms, social media, all those aspects.
Exactly.
And I would also say IT. You know, it goes without saying that we're driven by IT. The things that run a hotel, the property management system, the back end of you know, the whole IT system. There's so much about cybersecurity these days, etc. And the one other one, environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability has become so much more important. If you think about installation of solar panels, installation of boreholes, making sure that people understand when is the best time for water consumption to take place and how do we make savings in a hotel and make sure the lights aren't all on wherever you go, because that hits your bottom line. So those are sort of the approaches that I would encourage students to take. But it's a lovely industry to be in.
I think also you've just given them also just a set of things to prepare themselves if they want to kind of succeed also in the industry. So I think you've given them great insight. I just want to touch a little bit back on finance. You know, a lot of jobs also nowadays, they check if you're blacklisted, especially in finance. And if they find that you are, unfortunately, they're not going to give you the job just based on that, because especially if you're going to be managing people's money and advising people on money, and yet you are unable to manage your money. So I think, you know, the financial management thing, it's so holistic, really.
It is holistic. Look, I mean, if you're in the HR department and you are doing a reference check on people, I think what's far much more important is the honesty of that individual. So you'll find that an HR check would focus on psychometric testing, where we want to see your integrity profile. We want to see your ability to absorb and to learn, etc. But integrity is everything. If a person during a reference check had a criminal record, that would certainly be something that would unfortunately stand against that person, especially based on how severe that crime was. It doesn't bode well, of course, if your own personal finances are out of sync, because it might be an indication that there could be, problems down the line. But we try and work with our staff. We have an approach that says once you're working with us, ours is to make sure that you're successful. We pay good salaries. We exceed the minimum wage in City Lodge hotels because it's important for us.
You can see the smiles on their faces. I always say, when they are happy, then they are treated well.
It's so important. A happy staff member means you'll have a happy guest.
Absolutely. Most memorable moments when you were a student?
My naughty days. Look, I had many memorable moments, especially when I think of Switzerland. Switzerland was a wonderful place for discovery because it was very holistic in its approach. When we were, young students would be taken to wine farms and would be shown, all the different processes of how wine is made. And, we'd be told, you're only tasting, so taste and spit. And there'd be these spitting bowls. And we'd look at each other and say, isn't that a waste of wine? So not much wine got into the spitting bowl. And by the time we'd get back to school, we'd be a bit wobbly on the knees. So I laugh and, shake my head and I say, oh, if only my parents
I'm
knew.
sorry. I would have done a swallow as well. No ways.
Who's going to spit the good juice?
I'm going to ask you a few questions. This is just one word, one phrase. Are you ready?
Okay.
What's your favorite South African saying or phrase?
Ish.
Ish. Do you say that even at work sometimes?
Even now I said it as I was parking. I said ish.
Current song on repeat.
Lyra's Feel Good.
I wanna feel. Oh, I love that
beautiful.
song.
I
She's
love her.
gorgeous.
Yes.
Words you live by?
Honesty.
Like that. Most important goal you're working on at the moment?
Being the best version of myself.
I love that. I could give you a gold star right here on the forward. And how would people describe you when you're not in the room?
Lovable.
I think so. Warm.
Warm.
Yeah, it's coming through.
Yeah, I think so.
Lindiwe, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been absolutely amazing chatting to you.
Thanks, Dubbz. I've enjoyed this session and good luck to all the students.
So there we go. I think you've gotten all the tips that you need. You need the passion, you need the financial knowledge, you need the gees. You need to understand that in this industry, my friend, you will scrub the toilets as well. You will do the bed as well. Until next time.